Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, podcasters of all ages, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in to the new episode of the Nostalgia Birthday Party podcast. My name is Mickey on VHS. I am here with the best co host ever, Leah. Leah, say hello to everybody.
Hi, guys. I know it's been a while, but we're glad to be back and talk to you about a few topics today. A little bit of geek stuff, a little bit of sports, and I'll let Mickey start it off for you.
Yes, this is it's been a while, but this is the first time we're doing a podcast again in the same time zone. So this is this episode's actually a really big deal. But I mean, everything's kind of reopening a little bit in our country and across the globe. And right now, movie theaters are reopening. I don't really know how I feel about that. Before the pandemic happened, I was very kind of vocal about possibly not going to movie theaters anymore because people in movie theaters kind of ruin the experience. But I don't know. Now that they're reopening them for like limited capacity, I still don't feel that need to really return to theaters. But how do you feel about it, Leah?
I think that they're saying the right things, that they're adding employees to go and clean the theaters in between showings and sanitize everything every 30 minutes. But do we really know what's going on? No, we just have to trust them to make sure that they're doing the right thing.
And have movie theaters, I mean, they have a reputation of being kind of gross even before this whole pandemic started. So to think that they're going to go from it kind of reminds me of like public transportation where they're like, hey, we're making sure that your health is the number one priority. We're making sure these are trains and buses are clean. And then you go on social media and you see that they're filthy. You know, there's people on public transportation that aren't taking masks seriously, and sitting in the dark watching a 90-minute plus movie, I have zero faith in humanity that everyone is going to keep their mask on when you can't even really trust people in theaters to not use their phone or to not talk or whatever.
I know that I would be excited if everything was kept clean to see a couple of different movies in an actual movie theater. So, for one, Black Widow is still being moved back every couple of months. But another trailer that piqued my interest was for the Batman that they showed during DC Fandom Part 1. And I'm going to let Mickey start things off about the Batman.
The Batman. I've seen the trailer a couple of times now. I I'm okay with the trailer. I'm not blown away by it. I definitely was a Robert Pattinson supporter and everything. I think he is a very good actor, and I think he'll be fine as Bruce Wayne. But this trailer kind of has made me kind of reset my expectations for the movie. I feel like DC once again is going almost overtly dark with their movies, and with this one, it's like I didn't even know that the villain in the movie was the Riddler. I just thought it was some guy. And I was like, oh, I guess it's the Riddler. So it kind of gives me the feeling that every villain in this Batman kind of universe is going to be super dark and kind of almost indistinguishable from the rest of the villains.
Don't they have multiple famous villains lined up for this movie besides the Riddler?
I know they casted a bunch of people in villain roles. I don't know if they're all going to make an appearance in the Batman, but I feel it's kind of like they're casting them all now for future movies. Like this person's going to play Clockman, this person's going to play Puzzle Man or whatever.
Well, I still think the trailer was pretty impressive for only having filmed 25% of the movie. That's what they said before airing the trailer.
Well, that's an excellent point for the bare minimum of the movie that it seems that they've filmed so far for the movie. That was, looking at it through that sense, you have an excellent point. It is a really good trailer when you look at it from that perspective.
DC does look like it's going dark for the Batman, but in terms of other DC news, I'd like to switch over my thoughts to the CW shows. It was announced that Supergirl is going to be ending with season 6, which will air sometime maybe mid 2021 due to the pandemic and pushing back film schedules. Honestly, I'm a little relieved and disappointed at the same time. It's like I've been with these characters for a number of years now, and the whole Supergirl motto is hope, help, and compassion for all. And while we're in these times, it feels more than necessary to keep that in mind. But on the other hand, Supergirl has been very disappointing as what they've put out as a final product lately. They've shafted a bunch of their characters, series regulars like Alex, Kara's sister, Nia, Kelly, in favor of Lex Luthor, and it's almost become like the Lex Luthor show. He's just taking up so much screen time, and while John Cryer is a phenomenal actor portraying Lex,
My best friend, by the way. Sorry.
it's just way too much screen time dedicated to him.
Well, I mean, it would be the perfect way for them to transition into a Lex Luthor's kind of solo show, and maybe that would have been a good way for them to kind of shift that kind of energy over into his own show while you have Supergirl reclaim her own show.
And the thing is, there's going to be a Superman and Lois TV show, and presumably Lex, another version of him, has already been cast. So once again, you have this famous Superman villain taking up all the screen time on a Supergirl show. You kind of want to see Supergirl have her own arch nemesis, kind of like Clark and Lex have each other, but it's turning into Kara and Lex, and it's just been overdone.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of, as much as I've looked at Supergirl as kind of this great like representation for, I think, younger females to see, like, oh, Supergirl has her own TV show, she's doing her own thing. You're seeing it's the spotlight slowly being taken away from her to be given to male characters that aren't really in her division as far as supervillains. I mean, I'm pretty sure Supergirl has her own rose gallery of villains, but sure, let's throw Lex Luthor over there. It's almost like they're taking away the diversity of it. But on a positive note, they went super diversal for the recasting of Batwoman, and they released the first promotional picture of Batwoman for season 2.
Again, at DC Fandom, they had a Batwoman panel with almost the entire main cast. And I just have to say, they seem like lovely people, and the way that they interact with each other, and they're so excited to work together. It makes me excited as a fan to want to watch what they put out.
Yeah, you could see like Ben Affleck sitting around with the cast of the DCEU cast of the Justice League, and you could tell he was just miserable. He did not want to be there. He wanted to get out of there, and it did kind of make you less enthusiastic to see him in any other Batman movies, even though he's apparently like a really big fan of Batman. So it's nice to see like a bunch of people working on a comic book show, not a comedian show, and they just have that energy of just like, yeah, I'm excited to make the best product humanly possible. Right, Josie?
That's right.
All right. But speaking of diversity and casting of the DC universes, the multiverses, we have some diversity in the World Series coming up because Houston Astros will not be going to World Series this year. The
Playing my tiny violin for that.
I do feel bad for Dusty Baker, but he just seems like a good guy that was just handed like a very weird franchise to try to manage right now. But whatever. The Rays did what they were supposed to do. They're going to the World Series. Now it's down to the Dodgers and the Braves.
And let me say once again, if the Braves end up winning Game 7, I will pull out my tiny violin, and especially so if Kershaw is the one to choke and give up the runs in that game.
I really like their whole cooking celebration that they do. The Braves. I've really gotten behind them, and I feel like the more games I watch, the more maybe just my weird aura as a Jets fan is making them kind of like lose the series because I think they were up 3-1 at one point, and out of nowhere at Game 7, I'm like maybe I shouldn't like watch the game. Maybe it's better luck if I don't watch it. And then I didn't catch the game yesterday, and they still lost. So I'm just gonna watch the game, and hopefully the Braves close it out. And I actually like the way the MLB has been running the season or the rest of the season so far. I mean, baseball is already kind of a socially distancing kind of sport to begin with, but there's very little fans, if any fans, in the stadiums. I think I saw like actual people in one game. So
Arlington, Texas is allowing, I think, 5,000 or 10,000 fans per game, which in a stadium that holds 40, maybe 50,000, you can keep the social distancing up, I would imagine. And hopefully people take wearing their masks seriously when they're not eating or drinking.
yeah, I think it's San Diego. I don't remember even really seeing anyone. I remember seeing people like in their like kind of like their apartments with the balconies and everything, and they were watching the games from there. But I don't remember really seeing a lot of people in the stadium. So that's something that kind of distracts me when I watch professional wrestling now. If I'm watching a match and I see someone in the crowd not wearing their mask, it completely diverts my attention, and I feel very uncomfortable watching. So thankfully with baseball, I haven't really seen a lot of that. And plus, it's an outdoor sport anyway, so it's not like a roof that everyone's under and spreading germs or whatever.
I do have to, I guess, congratulate the Major League Baseball Association for keeping down the number of positive tests. I don't think there were any positive tests since, well, the beginning of the season, really, when the Marlins and the Phillies and some Midwestern teams, Cardinals, I think, had some cases. But after that, they really cut down on the number of cases and had very little, if any. So that's, I think, impressive considering it's not played in a bubble.
Yeah, I think the NBA, I was just going to bring up the bubble, that they only had like essential people there and everything, no fans, which I was a big fan of. It was very easy for you to just focus on the game and the storylines with that as opposed to random Lakers fan with no face mask or whatever. So I think the MLB, yeah, you got to give it to the NBA because I don't remember hearing any COVID outbreaks in the bubble. So maybe the NBA and then the MLB would be a close second there. Even though it's kind of easy for them to do, it's almost like Major League Soccer or football. They have that whole field and everything. So, and tennis was pretty good too. There's only a few people, except for the French Open. Then there's a good number of people there that I thought was kind of weird. But and then you have the NFL, which is just I don't know what they're.
Yeah, the NFL said that they had some like built-in weeks or they could do built-in bye weeks, and I guess we've seen a few of those happen so far, but as far as keeping the number of cases down, it seems like every day we're learning that a team has to shut down their facility because someone else has tested positive. And I mean, it's tough. There's 50 plus players and then all the staff on both sides of the field and it's a completely contact sport, it's hard to come up with any suggestions of how you could keep the number of cases down.
Well, I don't know. I still think the probably one of the best solutions would be getting some of the fans out of there. I know that's kind of an unpopular opinion, and NFL does need to get some revenue for these games. But I remember seeing one of the Cowboys games, and it didn't. Think they had the roof up at their stadium. I think it's a retractable. I don't know, but like literally nobody was distancing or putting their masks on. And one of my friends is a registered nurse in Texas, so it's still like a red state as far as cases and everything. So it's just very uncomfortable, kind of like seeing that happen. And it's just like, oh, how many cases are? How is this not helping the situation in Texas when you still have this going on, but it doesn't seem like anyone's really enforcing these rules when you go to sporting events, at least the ones in Texas. Some stadiums just don't have anyone there. Some have like a few people there. I don't know. Not the rag on Texas too much. It just seems like it always seems to be a Texas Florida thing. It's funny that this is all going on with sports, and Netflix just canceled Glow because I mean, for anyone who's been living under a rock, it's a show about kind of 80s female wrestling, and they canceled it because a lot of the scenes involve the actors having to wrestle one another. So they didn't think it was really worth it to do it. I guess they're trying to get away from as much controversy as humanly possible after Cuties. So they canceled it, and I think it's kind of weird because actual professional wrestling is still happening around the country. It's nuts. But they canceled Glow, which I thought was dope. And they canceled Leah's favorite show in the whole entire world, Teenage Bounty Hunters. How'd that make you feel, Leah?
I am not in favor of these decisions by Netflix. Well, for one, look, I understand that Glow has the whole contact sport part of part of it going for it, but you could always just wait to film until, we get vaccines or more safety precautions in place. But no, they decided to cancel it altogether. After giving it a fourth and final season, they're just taking it away. And the thing is, between that and Teenage Bounty Hunters and some other shows, these are female led shows. You're taking away a lot of representation for women and young girls. I know Teenage Bounty Hunters centers on two high school girls who get caught up in the middle of a bounty situation and then like it so much that they train under a found dad figure named Bowser, and just hilarity ensues and drama ensues. And it's a really well made series, but they canceled it. And I know it's got such a cult following, and now there's hashtag Save Bounty Hunters and petitions to get other networks or streaming services to pick it up. And I really hope that they do, because it takes a really good look at religion and how that mixes with the young liberal mindset, and there's just a lot of different aspects of that show going for it. And I would really hate to see it canceled because Netflix makes yet another poor decision.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, Glow, Teenage Bounty Hunters are both have been canceled pretty quickly, it just reminded me of I'm not okay with this getting canceled. This is before I think the pandemic really hit, or maybe it was during the pandemic, but it was a show that I recently just got into because Sophie Lillis is just an incredible actress, and there's another actor, Wyatt Cohen, I think his name is, from It, that was acting in the movie. Again, female-led kind of superhero-y kind of situation. The first season ended with a cliffhanger. There's some LGBTQ plus community representation on the show as well. So it's kind of weird how quickly these shows are just going to be like, should we wait a little bit before we cancel them? No, let's definitely cancel them right now. But we're actually the original plan was for us to segue that into talking about Warrior Nun, which is kind of like one of the last roaming buffalo of the strong female led kind of actiony shows. I was like, oh, okay, Leah, let's then we can just go straight into Warrior Nun, because the only thing I know about Warrior Nun are the females that it's Babe City there. That's the only thing I know about it. So I'm like, oh, Leah will be able to be like, okay, this show is about this, and Leah's like, well, Leah, you can explain the show.
I've only seen episode 1, so I don't have a lot to add, if anything, whatsoever. I'm sorry.
Nobody wants to hear me talk about my fascination with a Asian female character from Finland. So I think this is probably the best place before I get myself in trouble to end the episode. I really want to thank you guys for tuning in to this episode and kicking it with us, of course. Thank you guys. We're coming up on our 1 year. Well, not really, because that's in December, but we're pretty close to our 1 year anniversary episode. So we got to figure out what we're going to do with that. Leah, do you have any last words for the listeners?
Just wanted to thank you again for tuning in, and I hope that everyone is keeping safe and healthy out there.
Yes, please wear your mask. Please practice social distancing. I know it's cooling down, so you guys aren't partying as much, which is great. But still, let's try to work together so we can get out of this whole pandemic situation and go back to some relevance of our normal lives. Once again, I am Mickey on VHS. And Leah, what's your social media?
House of LG on Twitter.
I think I'm Mickey on VHS on pretty much everything. So, yeah. Thank you guys for listening. See you guys next time.